Case management is where nurse case managers can come onto the case at any point in time of the case, whether it's in an acute setting or more of a chronic long-term setting. We can also come in after the case is settled to provide case management services. So what is case management? Case management is the coordination of care, but it's much more than that. Nurse case managers are trained to assess the client in the home, in the workplace, or also in a medical setting. We assess symptoms, limitations, activities of daily living. We really want to understand who this individual was before the injury or the illness or the incident and who they are now. What was the spouse's role before the injury, and have any of the spouse's role changed? Oftentimes what we see is the spouse or the significant other, even the adult children, become the caregivers. The family dynamics change substantially after a catastrophic injury or illness. A case manager can come in, assess, identify what the issues are, what the concerns are, and then make recommendations to the attorneys or even to the physicians. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? And then we're going to help implement those changes and those recommendations and then see, is this a positive or negative outcome? We're there for the purposes of helping that person get better, get back to work if that's the case, or back to a productive member of society. Case managers will communicate amongst all of the parties, the providers, the pharmacy, the durable medical equipment, medical supplies vendors. We can also communicate with the payer sources. We're there to make sure that this situation is a well-oiled machine, that we're moving the case forward. There may be circumstances that cause a delay in medical care. We want to know why. We want to be able to step in and help out. Some examples of where case management has been utilized by attorneys. There was one particular case where the gentleman wasn't getting better. The doctor had done the surgery and this gentleman just was not recovering and rehabilitating as the doctors expected. One of the things that the attorney asked me to do was a home visit. The attorney had never ever been to this gentleman's home. I walk into the home and what I find is that there's no running water. This guy is going out in his front yard and taking a bath and washing his wounds that were just operated on, those wounds, those sutures in the creek in his front yard. The attorney had no clue the gentleman did not have running water. That was an issue that was delaying his care. Another situation, the gentleman didn't quite understand what his medical condition was. We came in as a case manager, assessed the situation, explained to him why he couldn't do this, why he couldn't do that. After that, no problem whatsoever. Sometimes it's a transportation issue. Sometimes it's family dynamics. The spouse decides, at this point, I'm done. I don't want to care for this person anymore. I'm burnt out. A case manager can come and find out what's going on with the medical conditions, speak with the doctors in their language. What we find is that providers are often intimidated by attorneys. So for an attorney to call, write a letter, go to the provider's office, may not necessarily get a lot of information from the providers. But if a case manager comes in, we're not seen as intimidation, we're not seen as threat. We're seen as a team player. We're in the home, we're talking with the client, we're talking with the spouse, we're talking with the family, and we relay that information, medical language to medical lingo to medical lingo. And the physicians and the providers will welcome us into the offices to be able to talk to them, troubleshoot what's on the case. A case manager is able to coordinate the care. If the physician recommends an MRI or a PT, we're on it. There's no reason to wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We can get things pre-authorized and we can get things turned over pretty quickly, so there's no delay in that person's medical care. If there's an issue with funding, there are creative ways to be able to look at alternative sources for funding or alternative methods of different particular types of care. Case managers can negotiate rates. We're familiar with talking with vendors to be able to negotiate those rates. In a nutshell, a case manager streamlines the process. What we do is we're a proactive approach rather than reactive. Case managers are always thinking 5, 10 steps ahead. What if this? What if that? So what we're doing is we're eliminating the complications, the delays, the barriers on a case. So that way your client gets a better outcome, a quicker outcome, so you can get this case settled sooner rather than later. If there's a situation where, let's say somebody is in a motor vehicle accident, it's a pretty catastrophic situation. Attorneys want to understand what the medical conditions are. Case managers can come in pretty quickly and easily into the hospitals. We're well accepted in the medical community. We can come in and we can identify and find out what those medical conditions are early on. We're able to speak to the providers, we're able to speak to the client and the family, get that medical information over to the attorneys. Once the client is discharged, a case manager can also help facilitate those discharge treatment recommendations. What we find is that there's a delay in care. I mean, let's face it, hospitals, rehab facilities, doctors' offices, they're busy. Things get dropped, things get delayed, things aren't pre-authorized. A case manager stays on top of all of that to make sure that your client is getting the optimum care. We all understand in claims and lawsuits that the longer the claim, the longer the lawsuit, the more time, the more expenses are in the case. If there's unreasonable delay, case management will streamline the medical process. We are the eyes and ears for the attorney. We are the eyes and ears for the physician. We understand what's going on in the home. We also take that information back to the attorney. A case manager is a proactive approach. What we want to do is get them better and a productive member to society. Get them better, so at that point, then you can move forward and settle the case. One would be a due diligence to your client. Having care coordinated, making sure that there's no delay in their care. For example, if there's a hospital discharge to a rehabilitation facility, case managers understand in the local areas what are the best resources, how to get that person from point A to point B. Once they're in a rehab facility, they're discharged home. A case manager makes sure that all of the durable medical equipment is at home and in place before they get home. Make sure that home health is there, ready and waiting for them. There's no delay in their care, because delay in the care is going to create a risk for complications. We are the eyes and ears for the attorney. We bring the medical information to the attorney. The other thing that we want to ensure is that there's documentation. Attorneys rely on medical records to document the medical damages. If the providers are not documenting what's necessary for the medical damages, a case manager can come in and assist in that documentation. The effectiveness of a case manager ultimately equates to medical damages. Documentation, documentation, documentation. Case managers keep the providers on their toes for making medical recommendations, documenting those medical recommendations. The case manager then implements the recommendations and then comes back and evaluates. Is this treatment working? If it is, great, let's move forward. If it's not working, why not? And what do we do next? Case managers provide cost savings on a case, and what I mean by that is time equals money. And if there's an undue delay or an unreasonable delay in this case because the ball is being dropped, a case manager comes in, picks up that ball and moves it forward. The case manager documents what's needed for the medical damages, so the outcome is going to be better for your client in the long run. Case management is considered to be a proactive, not a reactive approach. We always look 2-3 steps ahead, anticipate what the issues are going to be, and then we're going to move those issues or those barriers out of the way so your client can get a better outcome for their treatment, and it's going to give them a better quality of life. An attorney can control the case through a case manager, and what I mean by that is the communication between the case manager and the medical providers. That information goes back to the attorney. The attorney now has the knowledge, stays on top of what's going on in the case. It's better to prevent a complication than it is to manage a complication. So a case manager is able to have that insight, have that foresight of what's going on. Attorneys are able to manage their client through a case manager. Case manager documents what the issues are. Oftentimes issues equal medical damages. If there's a complication that is inevitable, that's going to equal medical damages. Case management is the coordination of care of someone with an injury or illness. What happens is that at the time of injury or illness, we can receive a referral for case management. Oftentimes those referrals will come through insurance companies, a lot of times workers' compensation cases. So we'll come on a case anywhere from hours, days, weeks, months, maybe even years after the injury or illness. The insurance adjuster will ask us to come in, assess the situation, review the records, do a home visit, meet with the providers, wrap our brain around what's going on in the case. We're oftentimes asked to troubleshoot, issue spot. Usually adjusters will make the referral for case management because the case is not moving forward. There's some kind of delay, whether it's a legitimate delay because of a medical complication or a situation where there's no transportation, the spouse, significant other has left and care is not being provided in the home. Adjusters will refer the case to us for case management because there's a delay, there's some kind of hiccup or barrier in not moving the case forward. We come in, we troubleshoot, we issue spot what's going on, what are the intentional and unintentional reasons for this case not moving forward, and then what we do as case managers is we help move that case forward for that person to get to medical stability, back to work, or a better life. An example of cost effectiveness in case management: if there's a catastrophic injury such as like a spinal cord injury, what we know is that a common complication for spinal cord injuries is urinary tract infections. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this person is going to get a urinary tract infection. What we know is that the average cost of a urinary tract infection and a hospitalization can be anywhere from $55,000 to $75,000 a pop for that hospitalization. As a case manager, we can come in, speak with the doctors, make sure that this client is with the proper specialist, such as a urologist, has the proper medical supplies, has the proper training and education, or someone's coming in and helping them out. So let's say we bill a couple $1,000s to the insurance company, but ultimately the hospitalization, $55,000 to $75,000, has been avoided. So that's why I say we provide cost-effective care. We also provide cost savings. What happens when the case settles? This is where plaintiff attorneys utilize case managers. You want to do a due diligence to your client. This is a situation where a cost projection, a life care plan, a Medicare set-aside report has been put on the table. The settlement has earmarked future medical care. We can come in as a case manager in the post-settlement side afterwards to help implement that report and coordinate that person's care. So that way they have a better quality of life. Their money is managed better through the settlement. We can come in and help coordinate that care so their money through the settlement lasts longer. We can also help utilize benefits that they have, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, health insurance, or even negotiating with the vendors. So plaintiff attorneys will use case managers in a post-settlement situation to help provide better quality of care, better quality of life for their client, as well as the due diligence to make sure that their client is cared for.